Now, the international break is nearly over, which means FPL is back. And in this video, I'm going to take you through players to buy and avoid ahead of Game Week 12. Right, we're going to start off the video then by looking at a model from Elevenify. I'll leave a link to Elevenify in the description. They produce really good, useful models for projected outcomes that are useful for FPL. And here we've got their projections for clean sheets over the coming, what we got there, 6 game weeks, right? The top team here, this is what I wanted to focus on. The top team here is Arsenal, right? And you look at all of their next 6 games, and they are either 40% or above to keep a clean sheet in all of their 6 upcoming fixtures. I really like the thought of buying Arsenal defence this week. In fact, I quite like the thought of going all in and doubling up. I'm considering doing this in my team. I'll come out with a team selection video tomorrow, but I'm genuinely considering owning not just 1, but 2 Arsenal defenders because I think it'll be a bit of a differential. And I just go back to, I've spoken about the Arsenal defence on 2 or 3 of my videos this week, but I just want to keep pumping it out there because I'm quite sure that this is, you know, a well thought out decision basically. Arsenal have been the best defence in the league statistically for the last 2 seasons, right? This year, yes, we've only had 11 games and they've not been that great, but it's a small sample size compared to the previous 2 seasons. And Arsenal have been unlucky on multiple occasions this season, I would say, with red cards for kicking the ball away, Saliba getting sent off, injuries. They've had an unlucky start to the season, right? Whether you think it's their fault or not, I don't think it matters. You know, it's been a poor start by their standards and things that might be, you know, not necessarily outside of the players' control, but I just think they've been unlucky basically, right? And I don't think the trend of misfortune is going to continue for them. And like I said, they've been the best defence in the league statistically for the last 2 seasons. I think that's worth something. And the coming fixtures are just, I think they probably have the best fixture run for the next 7 games of maybe any team in the Premier League, at least considering their quality. Wolves have a really good run too, but obviously Arsenal, whatever you say, are a better team than Wolves, right? And I'm looking at these next 7 fixtures. You've got the clean sheet odds below. We've already looked at those. I think maybe not the Man United game. Maybe not the Man United game. Depends on how they play under their new manager. And to be honest, Arsenal keeping a clean sheet against Man United isn't the most outrageous suggestion, right? Forest, West Ham, Man United, Fulham, Everton, Crystal Palace, Ipswich, all the way up until Boxing Day. I think that's a really good set of fixtures. And, you know, the clean sheet odds suggest it too. I think they've got a really good chance of keeping some clean sheets there. Now, based on those good fixtures, I also think it's worth targeting the Arsenal attackers, right? And one player I think is going to be good is Kai Havertz. 5 attacking returns from 11 appearances so far this season. You know, he's not an out-and-out number 9, but he plays as the number 9 for Arsenal. And I think one key factor to him being more advanced and being kind of more of that out-and-out number 9 is Martin Odegaard being back, which he is now. I think Martin Odegaard is going to play in Game Week 12 onwards. And I think having Martin Odegaard in the team really benefits not only the whole of the Arsenal team, but particularly Kai Havertz. And again, I look at those fixtures coming up. I think they're good for clean sheets, but I also think they're going to be exceptionally good for goals as well. Nottingham Forest at home, they've been pretty resolute defensively, but you know, you can't say they're the best defence in the league. Arsenal could well score in that one. West Ham, Man United, Fulham, Everton, you know, probably the hardest game they've got, like attacking wise, to score goals because of the quality of the defence they're facing is that Forest fixture in Game Week 12. The rest of the games, I see no reason why Arsenal couldn't score 1, 2, 3 goals in each of them. And also, I look at the top players for the next 3 game weeks. We just spoke about Odegaard briefly there. We've got Haaland, Salah, Palmer, Saka, Odegaard, Bruno Fernandes, Havertz, De Bruyne. This is all courtesy of FPL Review. These are the top players for the next 3 game weeks for expected points. Odegaard is ahead of Bruno Fernandes, who is going to be a really popular transfer in. And Havertz is, according to FPL Review at least, the 2nd best forward for expected points over the next 3 game weeks. So, yeah, I really like Kai Havertz. And I think with Martin Odegaard being back in the Arsenal team, it benefits Havertz because it means he can get away with playing more advanced, doesn't have to fill in for Odegaard in those sort of deeper midfield positions, which he did at times when Martin Odegaard was out. And also, I genuinely think Martin Odegaard's a good option to have in FPL. I don't necessarily think... I'm not 100% sure I would have him over Bruno Fernandes. I think the security of minutes, lack of injuries and penalties for Fernandes probably pushes him a little bit above Martin Odegaard. But, you know, 3.5% ownership, 8.2 million. With those great fixtures, not only do I think Havertz could be a good option, I think Martin Odegaard could be too. I also think Isak could well be a really good option too. 8.5 million, 17.2% ownership. And I think quite a lot of that ownership is managers that would have had him since the start of the season. He was one of the most popular players in the game, if not the most popular player in the game at the start of the season. And I think quite a lot of people that would have him at the moment are probably dead teams at this point. So I would suggest his ownership against engaged managers that are still in the runnings is probably a bit lower than that. His level of returns this season, despite, I don't know, I think people would suggest he's had a pretty disappointing start to the season. It's certainly compared to the numbers that he put up last season. But he still had 6 attacking returns from 9 appearances. 21 shots in the box in that time, so that's nearly sort of 2.5 a game. You know, I think he's a really good option. He's on penalties for Newcastle. He's going to play every game. And last season, right, Ollie Watkins was sort of touted to be, I guess, the star of the show or one of the top forwards last season. But Alexander Isak nearly outscored Ollie Watkins last season by playing over 10 less Premier League games, right? He's obviously a little bit injury prone. That's something you have to bear in mind. He has obviously already had an injury this season, right? But I just think he's a great option. And the fixtures coming up, you can see down there for Newcastle, are actually really good. West Ham, Crystal Palace, yes, Newcastle, yes, Liverpool mixed in there. Brentford and Leicester after that. So the surrounding 4 fixtures around that Liverpool game are really good. And I would also say I would always back Newcastle at St James's Park. I don't know how you guys feel about this. You might have a different opinion to me. But Newcastle at St James's Park can pull a result out and score goals, keep clean sheets against pretty much anyone. We saw they did that earlier on in the season against Man City. Everyone expected Man City to kind of blow them away, and they didn't. Newcastle stayed strong and played really well at St James's Park against them. And I wouldn't rule out them being able to score. Despite Liverpool being the best defence in the league so far this season, I wouldn't rule out Liverpool being able to score in that fixture. So, yeah, I think Isak's a good option too. I mentioned him when I spoke about Martin Odegaard, and I've mentioned him on other videos I've made as well. I think Bruno Fernandes... No one can ever tell me that Bruno Fernandes is not a good FPL option. That's the kind of narrative I want to go with here. He starts every game. He's the team's talisman. He takes penalties. He plays 90 minutes. And he barely ever gets injured. And I would say the level of returns he's put up this season is probably, well, it is lower than what he's been expected to. Players usually always outperform expected assists, so I wouldn't look too much into that. But he's put up 4 XG and only scored 2. He's one of the biggest underperformers of expected goals so far this season. And it's only a matter of time, I think, before that levels out and the goals become somewhat near towards the expected goals, right? I think Bruno Fernandes is a great option. Like I said, for all that reason, all the reasons there. The only thing that I'd be a little bit concerned about is Arsenal away and Man City away mixed in his next 5 fixtures. But again, you know, like I said, I think Arsenal are pretty strong defensively, but I did doubt their ability to keep a clean sheet against Man United under the new manager. And just speaking of the new manager, by the way, I have my doubts about Man United, just in terms of how they line up under this new manager, Amorim. But there's no doubt in my mind that Bruno Fernandes is still going to be the talisman. He's still going to play every game, still going to play 90 minutes. So, you know, other players might become minutes risks under this new manager, but I don't think Bruno will. Like I said, I think Arsenal away is probably the tough fixture there. Man City... They are not keeping clean sheets at the moment. I don't think they're performing well defensively at all. So I wouldn't be too worried about that fixture for Bruno Fernandes. Nottingham Forest as well, I guess, is a tough one too. But again, you know, it's Nottingham Forest, Old Trafford, new manager. I have a feeling Man United and Bruno can be involved in goals in there. And the next 2, Ipswich and Everton, are good fixtures as well. I thought I'd just take a look at defenders next, because I think there's opportunities to make transfers involving your cheap defenders. I'll be doing this week, and I'll talk a little bit more about exactly what I'm going to do with my team in my team selection video. But I think people that are on Rico Lewis, maybe Nottingham Forest defenders whose fixtures turn, you know, none of the Nottingham Forest defenders, for example, appear on this list. It could be time to chop and change around some of your cheap defenders. And I'm looking at the 2 top cheap defenders for the next 3 game weeks. This is according to FPL Review. And they're 2 of the biggest trolls in FPL history. We got Luca Dean and Reece James. Reece James has actually been stringing games together now for Chelsea and looks to be back fit and going. Luca Dean has been playing really well for Villa, scored a free kick for France during the international break. I think he's made a case to probably be on free kicks for Aston Villa too if he gets the opportunity to take one. I think Luca Dean could be a really good option. I like Anthony Robinson of Fulham as well. I like Colwill of Chelsea. I tell you what, the Chelsea fixture run until like January is really good from now onwards. But with Colwill, I'm just not sure he really offers that much attacking threat. It's literally just a clean sheet or bust I think you're going to get from him. Same probably with Konsa. I'm not sure I'd back Mykolenko with his injury record and Everton being quite poor. Who else we got there? And the other ones I like are Kirkez and Lewis Hall as well. I think Bournemouth have a good fixture run. You know, we saw with Isak. Where's Isak? I've lost him. Newcastle have a decent fixture run, barring that Liverpool away game, or Liverpool home game, sorry. But then again, you know, I said that Newcastle at St James's Park, I'd back to be able to beat, score, and potentially keep a clean sheet against anyone. And then Kirkez of Bournemouth, like I said, those are the three. I would say right now my two favourite cheap defenders in the game are Lewis Hall and Luca Dean. I would also say Kirkez is in there as well, to be fair, but I'd probably just put him just outside of these two. And here's a straight up comparison between the two. I don't really have a conclusion on who my favourite one of these two is. I'm deciding between them myself on who to bring in my team at the moment. I'm going to sell Rico Lewis this week, and I'm deciding on who to bring in out of these two, and quite honestly, I can't. So, yeah, there's a comparison for you. Let me know in the comments who you think is your favourite out of Lewis Hall and Luca Dean. Another area where people might be looking to make changes, bring players in, take players out, etc. are the cheap forwards category. Now, Nottingham Forest embark on, well, a relatively tough fixture run over the next 3 fixtures. A lot of people probably on Chris Wood. Other players emerging, coming back from injury, João Pedro, for example, and other players performing quite well as well. I just wanted to basically talk about just how many options there are in this cheap forwards category at the moment. I've filtered here on FPL review for the next 3 game weeks under 7 million. And there are just so many pickable options here. Raul Jimenez looks to be the Fulham first choice number 9, is putting up really good underlying numbers, both goals and assists. And I think with Andreas Pereira missing the last penalty that Fulham had, Raul Jimenez has got, I think, a really, really good spot kick record. I think he's going to be taking the next Fulham penalty. Chris Wood, he's obviously been fantastic. Put up really good goals from low XG. He's basically not had that many chances, but just been absolutely lethal with his finishing. But he does have some relatively tough fixtures coming up. Danny Welbeck for Brighton has been in really good form. Evan Nielsen of Bournemouth has been playing really well as well. I don't like Jamie Vardy as an FPL option. I think at some point he will pull up with an injury and just drop off in form. But so far this season he's proved me wrong and proved to be a pretty good asset. João Pedro back for Brighton looks really exciting. Brighton have a really good fixture run. He's on penalties for Brighton as well, as we all know. But I would suggest, with Welbeck and Ruta both also playing really well, who I would suggest João Pedro would be competing for minutes in their positions with, I would just question a little bit his expected minutes. You can see that FPL review has him down for 62 expected minutes, but he's still got that level of expected points from just 62 expected minutes. Don't like Calvert-Lewin. Ignore Calvert-Lewin. Cunha I really like. Strand Larsen I really like too from Wolves. He did get an injury pre-international break, so one to monitor there, I guess. And Cunha and Strand Larsen, they've put up, despite being over $1 million difference in price, they've actually put up relatively similar data and underlying numbers this season. Just an interesting point. And then Wissa of Brentford too obviously has a fantastic partnership with Mbeumo. The Brentford fixtures are still quite good. They do peter off after 4 or 5 game weeks time. But, you know, he's back fit. Well, supposedly back fit. He's flagged at the moment in the game, isn't he? But I think, honestly, I think that's just an international break injury and it's nothing to worry about. Yeah, I really like Wissa as an option. He's not on penalties necessarily, but I don't think that matters. He's really dangerous from open play. In fact, I think he's actually more dangerous than Mbeumo is from open play in terms of underlying data. I really like him as an option. There are so many good forwards to pick from. I would say, if I were to pick my highlights, I would say Raul Jimenez, Chris Wood, obviously. I'd say Danny Welbeck's pickable, João Pedro's pickable, Cunha, Strand Larsen, and Wissa. All the players I went through, basically. These are all pickable options. So, yeah, if you're watching this far, let me know in the comments who your favourite cheap forward is. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that. Bit of a refresh there of the buy and avoid video I made. I think it was on Saturday night, just after game week 11 finished. So, Now, a few changes to what I was talking about there. I've definitely included a few themes and players that I have in other videos that I've made. But quite honestly, I wanted to repeat myself for effect. Arsenal defenders, Bruno Fernandes, Odegaard, Havertz, you know, the Arsenal players. With the fixture run they're about to embark on, I don't think anyone, even if I'm, you know, it might sound stupid saying this, but no one can convince me that they're bad picks based on, you know, the historic record that Arsenal have defensively, the quality of fixtures they've got coming up, what we know about Bruno Fernandes in terms of minutes, talismanic role, and, you know, all of those things about Bruno Fernandes. No one can convince me he's a bad option either. So, yes, I've got my blinkers on. I might be being a bit stupid saying that, or might sound a bit stupid, but it's just my opinion, and half the time that's what the channel's about. So, if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments what you think of some of those picks. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And you can subscribe, by the way, to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just here on your screen if you haven't done so already. I'd really appreciate it if you could support the channel and do that. I'll catch you in my next video.